The Sunshine List is out, and Ontario PC leader Doug Ford is using it to try and boost his campaign leading up to the election on June 7th. Now, the Sunshine List is a list of public sector employees that make over $100,000 a year. Now, this data started to be collected in the mid-90s, and really now has gotten to a point where $100,000 a year isn't exactly what it used to be. But with that said, there are some real criticisms to be made with the amount of money that some people are making in this list. So there is some truth to what Doug Ford is saying, and I'm going to show you that. At the same time, I'm also going to show you why Doug Ford is not the right person to be making these criticisms. So first off, there's about 131,000 names on the Sunshine List, and it's mainly made up of school principals, police officers, go-train engineers, registered nurses, and college instructors. But that's not exactly how Doug Ford is framing it. So this is what Doug Ford tweeted out. They call this the Sunshine List, but for hard-working people of Ontario, there is nothing sunny about it. Liberal insiders and fat cats are getting raises, while real folks in Ontario haven't gotten a raise in years. Alright, so this is the fake populism that works on a lot of people. But all you have to do is a little research so you understand what Doug Ford is actually about. So right here he is saying that real folks in Ontario haven't received a raise in years. But the reality is, in Ontario, the minimum wage just raised to $14 an hour. And guess who was against it? Doug Ford. The minimum wage is also being raised to $15 an hour next year. Guess who's against that? Doug Ford. In fact, Doug Ford is the only candidate in the race that is against raising the minimum wage. Yet somehow he is supposed to be fighting for the real folks in Ontario that haven't received a raise in years. Now, another part of this list that is worth mentioning, because it's a long list, many of the employees on this list are municipal, meaning that the Ontario Liberals have nothing to do with their salaries. Now, are there real criticisms to make about this list? Absolutely. So, the Ontario Power Generation boss, Jeff Leitch, tops Sunshine List of public sector earners at $1.55 million. He got a raise of $400,000. A $400,000 raise in a year is unbelievable. So, you can understand why Doug Ford and many of his supporters are angry about that. You should be angry about that. But Doug Ford, I'm going to show you in a minute, doesn't have any real solutions for it. Now, first up, NDP leader Andrea Horwath also spoke out against this list, saying, "Meanwhile, Ontario's top 10 executives are raking in millions, money that should be invested into the healthcare services that Ontario families need." So, while the NDP leader, Andrea Horwath, is open and honest about where this money should actually be going, what's Doug Ford's plan? Here's what he says. "We're going to review it from top to bottom and make sure there's some accountability and transparency." So, Doug Ford is going to review it from top to bottom and make sure there's some accountability and transparency. What does that actually mean? So, there already is transparency, as we can see that these people are making that money. Accountability for the money they are receiving. They didn't necessarily do anything wrong. They're just making this money. And he's going to review it. Okay, you're reviewing it right now. Do you know what the political translation of this is? Jack shit. Doug Ford has no plan. He is using this as a way to try and boost his campaign. And if you don't believe me, here is something else that he said while talking about this Sunshine List. Quote, "There is also a secret list of Hydro One millionaires. There's a secret list out there that Kathleen Wynne decided to squash, that she didn't want any of the taxpayers to know, that there's a whack of millionaires, as people are struggling again to pay their hydro bills. We're going to find out who those people are making millions of dollars." So that secret list that Doug Ford is talking about, that Premier Kathleen Wynne is hiding from you, well, that list isn't all that secret. In fact, it's actually on Hydro One's website in a very public PDF that lists the names and salaries of its executives who, yes, all earn over $1 million. So, Doug Ford is lying. He's lying to you. He's acting like Kathleen Wynne is hiding this massive list of Hydro One millionaires so that people in Ontario can't see it. But you can see it. It's on their freaking website. It's there. You can look at the list. So, this is what I'm talking about. This is all a ploy. All made for your attention. This is all done to get you to think that Doug Ford is on your side. Now, was privatizing Hydro One a terrible move by Kathleen Wynne? Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? All Doug Ford talks about is privatization. He would have done the exact same thing. So if you're going to try and get at Kathleen Wynne for privatizing Hydro One and having all these executives now making these $1 million salaries, you should also acknowledge that Doug Ford also loves privatization and would do the exact same thing. Now, something that Ford didn't mention while talking about the Sunshine List is the people he's campaigning with who are also on that list. So, for example, Christine Elliott, the former PC leadership candidate, made over $203,000 last year. She's on the list. Someone else, Rod Phillips, who is running for a seat in Ontario's PCs this year, he is the former president and CEO of the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation. In 2013, he made over $722,000. Doug Ford was just campaigning with him. So, if you combine this with Doug Ford's actual history on this issue, which I'm about to show you, it's even worse. So, Shelley Carroll, who worked for the city of Toronto, tweeted out this response to Doug Ford. What is this man talking about? The last year I chaired the city of Toronto budget, there were 5,415 Toronto employees on the Sunshine List. After 4 years of Doug Ford sitting on the budget committee, that number more than doubled to 11,282. So, that explains why Doug Ford has offered no solutions to combating the results of this Sunshine List. He was once on the budget committee in Toronto, and that list doubled under him. He's just using this to campaign. So you think he's a man of the people. Doug Ford really standing up for us. But just look into what he is saying. He's against raising the minimum wage. He is, when he was in control of a budget committee, on a budget committee for 4 years, this issue only got worse under him. So are there legitimate reasons to be angry about this? Yes. Nobody should be making $400,000 in a raise in 1 year. That's nuts. But just because he is correctly pointing that out doesn't mean that Doug Ford has any solution to the problem. And in fact, history shows us that under him, it's only gotten worse. Hey, if you like this video, hit that subscribe button below and consider throwing me a few bucks on Patreon at patreon.com/therationalnational or therationalnational.com/join.